The Global Center for Policy and Strategy has 5 key research pillars. 1. Diplomacy and foreign policy. 2. Defense and security. 3. Strategic interests and transnational crimes. 4. Public policy, ethics and governance. And 5. Development. The organization is headed by Brigadier Retired Charles Kanyate as the Executive Director, with Dr. Kennedy Assemble as the Associate Director, whose efforts are complemented by a team of expert non-resident fellows and a vibrant resident research team.
The Global Center for Policy and Strategy is a non-profit organization based in Nairobi. The center was founded in 2020 last year and has an overreaching vision of being a leading global center for excellence in action research, policy influence, and strategy formulation. I joined the center last year in 2020 upon my retirement from military after serving for over 35 years. My role as the director of this center is to ensure the delivery of our vision and mission in a strategically designed programs and come up with the best products. As a center, we aspire to be a well-regarded think tank globally that contributes to policy debates in line with our themes of diplomacy, security, and development. We look forward to making the center a reputable name in providing support to evidence-based policy formulation locally, regionally, and globally.
We produce and disseminate research outputs through various media outlets, such as our current inaugural issue, the Influential Bulletin. We engage the public through various platforms, such as the GLOSEP's website and social media. We are soon moving to talk shows with our local media houses.
The center does have the strategy of helping to create a platform for policy intelligence gathering, which I think is incredibly important in the contemporary world that we are living in. and certainly this will enable the center to remain relevant in coming up with very persuasive policy ideas and shape policy action for better living, so if I can put it like that. Secondly, I think it's important to mention that the strategy enables the policy practitioners bring in a wealth of experience in public policy formulation, while researchers at the same time will bring in focused academic credentials and insights to most of the most pressing problems in the world.
So one of the clear approach we have adopted is data triangulation. We apply multiple research approaches and methodologies in the research products that we deliver. Moreover, our data triangulation and validation is supported and informed by our engagements with experienced practitioners who are the non-resident fellows for the Global Center for Policy and Strategy. This then allows for knowledge sharing and peer review for the products that we deliver.
In the diplomacy pillar, we seek to use innovative evidence-based research to advise on policy. We also craft strategies for states to adopt in advancing their stature and leverage in the national, regional, and global arena. We also churn out analytical insights to enable achievement of various foreign policy objectives, mainly in the defense and security objectives, the economic objectives, the diaspora community, and also their environmental objectives.
The pillar undertakes cutting-edge action-oriented research to redefine public policy, address governance issues, strengthen devolution, and the rule of law.
The development pillar promotes the center's vision as the epitome of action-oriented research around contemporary national and global development agenda. The pillar advances public discourse around the realization of SDGs, that is the Sustainable Development Goals. To do that, we isolate and analyze underlying political and economic institutional dynamics that impede or promote the development of societies and nations.
This pillar conceptualizes and initializes research focusing on mutual relations between nations and transnational organized crimes. The relations are focal to national interests, while the organized crimes have implications on state and societal security.
I see the center certainly becoming an intellectual hub for practical ideas with real-time information on mitigating on the various global challenges that we are currently facing.
We plan for intergenerational transfer of knowledge between experienced public policy practitioners and academia. We plan for continuous capacity building for the research team in various spheres of research, such as data collection, data analysis, research writing, and publications. We plan to create networks and synergies with like-minded individuals and organizations.
As a center, we aspire to be a well-regarded think tank globally that contributes to policy debates in line with our themes of diplomacy, security, and development. We look forward to making the center a reputable name in providing support to evidence-based policy formulation locally, regionally, and globally.
The Global Center for Policy and Strategy has 5 key research pillars.
Good afternoon,
1.
distinguished
Diplomacy
guests.
and foreign policy.
We will begin
2.
shortly.
Defense and security. 3. Strategic interests and transnational crimes. 4. Public policy, ethics and governance. And 5. Development. The organization is headed by Brigadier Retired Charles Kanyete as the Executive Director, with Dr. Kennedy Assemble as the Associate Director, whose efforts are complemented by a team of expert non-resident fellows and a vibrant resident research team.
The Global Center for Policy and Strategy is a non-profit organization based in Nairobi. The center was founded in 2020 last year and has an overreaching vision of being a leading global center for excellence in action research, policy influence, and strategy formulation. I joined the center last year in 2020 upon my retirement from military after serving for over 35 years. My role as the director of this center is to ensure the delivery of our vision and mission in a strategically designed effective programs and come up with the best products. As a center, we aspire to be a well-regarded think tank globally that contributes to policy debates in line with our themes of diplomacy, security, and development. We look forward to making the center a reputable name in providing support to evidence-based policy formulation locally, regionally, and globally.
We produce and disseminate research outputs through various media outlets, such as our current inaugural issue, the Influential Bulletin. We engage the public through various platforms, such as the GLOSEP's website and social media. We are soon moving to talk shows with our local media houses.
The center does have the strategy of helping to create a platform for policy intelligence gathering, which I think is incredibly important in the contemporary world that we are living in. And certainly this will enable the center to remain relevant in coming up with very persuasive policy ideas and shape policy action for better living, so if I can put it like that. Secondly, I think it's important to mention that the strategy enables the policy practitioners bring in a wealth of experience in public policy formulation, while researchers at the same time will bring in focused academic credentials and insights to most of the most pressing problems in the world.
So one of the clear approach we have adopted is data triangulation. We apply multiple research approaches and methodologies in the research products that we deliver. Moreover, our data triangulation and validation is supported and informed by our engagements with experienced practitioners who are the non-resident fellows for the Global Center for Policy and Strategy. This then allows for knowledge sharing and peer review for the products that we deliver.
In the diplomacy pillar, we seek to use innovative evidence-based research to advise on policy. We also craft strategies for states to adopt in advancing their stature and leverage in the national, regional, and global arena. We also churn out analytical insights to enable achievement of various foreign policy objectives, mainly in the defense and security objectives, the economic objectives, the diaspora community, and also their environmental objectives.
The pillar undertakes cutting-edge action-oriented research to redefine public policy, address governance issues, strengthen devolution, and the rule of law.
The development pillar promotes the center's vision as the epitome of action-oriented research around contemporary national and global development agenda. The pillar advances public discourse around the realization of SDGs, that is the Sustainable Development Goals. To do that, we isolate and analyze underlying political and economic institutional dynamics that impede or promote the development of societies and nations.
This pillar conceptualizes and initializes research focusing on mutual relations between nations and transnational organized crimes. The relations are focal to national interests, while the organized crimes have implications on state and societal security.
I see the center certainly becoming an intellectual hub for practical ideas with real-time information on mitigating on the various global challenges that we are currently facing.
We plan for intergenerational transfer of knowledge between experienced public policy practitioners and academia. We plan for continuous capacity building for the research team in various spheres of research, such as data collection, data analysis, research writing, and publications. We plan to create networks and synergies with like-minded individuals and organizations.
Here as a center, we aspire to be a well-regarded think tank globally that contributes to policy debates in line with our themes of diplomacy, security, and development. We look forward to making the center a reputable name in providing support to evidence-based policy formulation locally, regionally, and globally.
The Global Center for Policy and Strategy has 5 key research pillars. 1. Diplomacy and foreign policy. 2. Defense and security. 3. Strategic interests and transnational crimes. 4. Public policy, ethics and governance. And 5. Development. The organization is headed by Brigadier Retired Charles Kanyate as the Executive Director. with Dr. Kennedy Assemble as the Associate Director, whose efforts are complemented by a team of expert non-resident fellows and a vibrant resident research team.
The Global Center for Policy and Strategy is a non-profit organization based in Nairobi. The center was founded in 2020 last year and has an overreaching vision of being a leading global center for excellence in action research, policy influence, and strategy formulation. I joined the center last year in 2020 upon my retirement from military after serving for over 35 years. My role as the director of this center is to ensure the delivery of our vision and mission in a strategically designed effective programs and come up with the best products. As a center, we aspire to be a well-regarded think tank globally that contributes to policy debates in line with our themes of diplomacy, security, and development. We look forward to making the center a reputable name in providing support to evidence-based policy formulation locally, regionally, and globally.
We produce and disseminate research outputs through various media outlets, such as our current inaugural issue, the Influential Bulletin. We engage the public through various platforms, such as the GLOSEP's website and social media. We are soon moving to talk shows with our local media houses.
The center does have the strategy of helping to create a platform for policy intelligence gathering, which I think is incredibly important in the contemporary world that we are living in. Certainly this will enable the center to remain relevant in coming up with very persuasive policy ideas and shape policy action for better living, so if I can put it like that. Secondly, I think it's important to mention that the strategy enables...
Thank you. As you're standing, we'll now play the national anthem, followed by the opening prayer. Thank you. We remain standing for the opening prayer by Mr. Michael Howard.
Let us trust and pray. Our Heavenly Father, we are thankful for this wonderful day that you're giving unto us, and thankful for the event that is before us, of this special launch of the work that the center has been doing. Father, we are grateful for the life of the chief guest and the center's team and all our guests who are sharing with us this noble day. We ask that may your grace, may your guidance, and may your peace and understanding be with us even as we celebrate this day, and even after, when our guests are revert back home. We give you all the praise and the honor, now and forevermore. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
You may have your seats. Our chief guest, Nancy Karigithu, CBS, Principal Secretary, State Department for Shipping and Maritime Affairs, Ministry of Transport, Infrastructure, Housing, Urban Development and Public Works, the Executive Director, the Global Center for Policy and Strategy, Brigadier Retired Charles Kangethe, EBS, the Associate Director, the Global Center for Policy and Strategy, Dr. Kennedy Asembo, OGW, board members present, Madam Regina Muyuro, Ambassador Solomon Maina, MBS, distinguished guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is John Mwangi, and I will be your program coordinator for this event. On behalf of the executive leadership at the Global Center for Policy and Strategy, allow me to extend a warm welcome to all of you, and thank you very much for honoring our launch invitation this afternoon. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered here today to celebrate the release of one of the flagship products of the Global Center for Policy and Strategy. Before we commence the program this afternoon, just allow me to address a few housekeeping matters. The washrooms are to the extreme right of this hall, to my extreme right at the exit of the hall. And then we'll also have the reception at the registration area as you walked in. I'll now like to take you quickly through the event program. You have a copy on your desk. We expect to finish very close to 5 p.m. and thereafter join a reception. And there'll also be a photo session at the end, but I'll provide more guidance. So this is our program. The first serial was the arrival of guests. Sorry, we began a little late. We played the national anthem and the opening prayer, serial 2. Serial 3 will be the welcoming remarks that will be delivered by Dr. Kennedy Asembo. Then we'll have the serial 4, the non-resident fellow remarks, to be delivered by Ambassador Solomon Maina. Thereafter, we'll listen to Madam Regina Muyuro, who is a board member of the Global Center for Policy and Strategy. We thereafter, number 6, have the executive director's remarks. That will be followed by number 7, the chief guest address by the principal secretary, who is present here with us today. And then we'll proceed to the launch event that will be presided over by Dr. Kennedy Asembo. There will be a gift presentation, a vote of thanks, a photo session towards the end, and a reception. Allow me now to invite Dr. Kennedy Asembo to the podium to deliver his welcoming remarks. Welcome, Dr. Asembo.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mwangi. To our chief guest today, Madam Nancy Karigithu, Principal Secretary, State Department of Maritime, our Executive Director of the Global Center for Policy and Strategy, retired Brigadier Charles Kangethe, our board member, Madam Regina Muyuro, Ambassador Solomon Maina, who is representing our non-resident fellows, our distinguished guests, GLOSEP staff, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed, good afternoon. I'm delighted to welcome you today to the official launch of the second issue of our flagship bulletin, the Influential. As GLOSEP's family, we are once again delighted to host you today in this great occasion. We recognize you as policy drivers, experts, and great minds whose contribution to policy formulation and implementation in various capacities is unmatched. We feel most privileged with your attendance because we distinguish the fact that you value us and are ready to be a worthy partner to our cause. You have spared time out of your busy schedule to be with us here today because you believe, just like us, that if everyone is moving forward together, then success takes care of itself. We indeed thank you most sincerely for honoring our invitation. As we continue to grow as GLOSEP's family, our resolve to keep on working as a team remains our key strength. We have a vibrant team of excellent academicians and experienced policy experts who have worked tirelessly to deliver the bulletin we are launching today. They have a common understanding that the only place where success comes before work is in the dictionary. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce to you this great team. We have our board members who are represented today by Madam Regina Bureau. Thank you, Madam Regina. Our executive director is Brigadier Charles Mwangi Kangete. Thank you, sir. We also call him the General. Yes, I am Dr. Kennedy Asembo, the Associate Director, Research Policy and Communication. Our non-resident fellows who are not with us today are represented by our non-resident research fellow for Diplomacy and Foreign Policy pillar, Ambassador Solomon Maina. Thank you so much, Ambassador. The resident research fellows, one, we have our resident research fellow for Defense and Security pillar, Dr. John Mwangi, who is also our program coordinator today. Thank you so much, Daktari. Our development pillar, resident research fellow is Mr. Mike War. Thank you so much, Mike. The diplomacy and foreign policy pillar, our resident research fellow is Ms. Janet Mudhoni. Thank you so much, Janet. Public policy, ethics and governance pillar is Mr. Stephen Duvi. Thank you so much, Steve. Our strategic interests and transnational crimes pillar is Ms. Aida Gadoni. Yeah, thank you so much, Aida. And of course, we have our research assistant who helps put everything together for the team. That's Mr. Ken Ngatia. Thank you so much, Ken. Our administrative team, we have the executive assistant to the director, Ms. Grace Musolo. Thank you so much, Grace. The administrative assistant is Judy Peter, who has put everything together for us today. We have our graphics designer, who gives us the beautiful pictures you see here, Lydia Aoko. Our support team is represented today by Mr. Onesmus Karaoke, who is also the driver to our executive director. That is our team, and we remain proud of each member. On behalf of the center, I request you to feel most welcome to GLOSEPs and be part of our journey to influence the globe with productive ideas. Our core business is to peddle influential ideas. And in the words of Oliver Holmes, Sr., I want to leave you with this quote, that many ideas grow better when transplanted into another mind than the one they sprang up. We remain optimistic that the best way to fulfill the legitimate aspirations of each one of us and achieve great collective goals is through our sincere and generous collaboration. I welcome you to GLOSEPs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kennedy Assemble, for your welcoming remarks. I'd now like to invite the next speaker to recognize the guests who are present with us today, this afternoon. I'd like to recognize the presence of Colonel Philip Wangombe, who's seated there. Thank you for attending our event. I'd like to recognize Dr. Freddy Kokaka. Yes. Thank you. I'd like to recognize Dr. Susan Mwangi. I think she was somewhere here. I'd like to recognize Professor Iraki. I'd like to recognize Titi Ayera from the National Police Service. I'd like to recognize Alex Kabia, a friend of the center. I'd now like to invite Ambassador Solomon Maina for his remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, our MC, Dr. Mwangi. Mrs. Nancy Karigithu, Principal Secretary, State Department for Shipping and Maritime. Brigadier Retired Charles Kang'ethe, the Executive Director of GLOSEPS. Board members of GLOSEPS, distinguished partners, guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, na hamujambo. It is with great pleasure that I once again join the larger GLOSEP family in launching the second edition of the Influential Bulletin. Together with my colleagues who serve as non-resident fellows, it has been an honor to work with the dedicated team of resident researchers who have been instrumental in collecting and synthesizing critical data on issues pertaining to our national interests and formulate appropriate influential recommendations. As such, adhering to the center's vision. Ladies and gentlemen, in the last 3 months, it has indeed been refreshing to visit the GLOSEP's website, which has constantly uploaded informative daily papers on various policy issues. It is indeed gratifying to state that GLOSEPS has become a premier think tank for policy influence and action. As regards this particular special issue of the Influential Bulletin, the resident fellows have undertaken an interdisciplinary approach in anticipating and resolving complex challenges that face our nation today. They have written thought-provoking papers on the COVID pandemic, regional politics, governance, and energy policies. Owing to the topical nature of this edition, I urge you all to read it in depth. We welcome your insights, comments, and observations as we continue to improve the center's output. As we have stated before, GLOSEP remains open to new ideas and innovations. Ladies and gentlemen, it is very encouraging to note that recently, GLOSEPs held a workshop on Kenya's strategic interest. The workshop attracted the presence of our partners and indeed many stakeholders. As a result, we expect more influential policy papers touching on various spheres, including but not limited to economic rejuvenation, bilateral relations, public ethic policies, financial crimes, violent extremism in Kenya. As I conclude my brief remarks, let me take this opportunity to indeed applaud the board at GLOSEPS and the astute leadership of the center's executive director for the important achievements the center has attained so far. We are positive, really positive, that with the visible synergy that we continue witnessing, the center will certainly realize important milestones moving forward. I thank you very much. Na asante sana for being with us today, this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Solomon Maina, for your remarks. I'd like to, before I invite Dr. Kennedy Asembo to the podium, I'd like to recognize the presence of Mr. Shem Goi from the Financial Reporting Center. Welcome. Thank you. I'd now like to invite Dr. Kennedy Asembo to the podium to invite our board member.
Thank you once again, Dr. Mwangi. It is now my humble duty to invite Madam Regina Muyuro, our board member, to make her remarks. Karibu, Madam.
The chief guest, Mrs. Nancy Karigidu, PS, State Department for Shipping and Maritime. The GROSEP's Executive Director, Brigadier Retired Charles Kangeve. GROSEP's non-resident fellow, Ambassador Solomon Maina, representing other non-resident fellows of the GROSEP's, distinguished scholars and partners. Distinguished guests, GROSEP's team, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is lovely to see you here today. On behalf of the GROSEP's Board of Directors, I am privileged this afternoon to extend a very warm welcome to our chief guest and all the friends who are present here today. Thank you all for coming and for supporting this event. Indeed, it's a great pleasure for us to hold the launch of the second issue of the GROSEP's Influential Bulletin on domestic and regional conversations shaping Kenya's national interest. Why is that? Because GROSEPS is not just a think tank, it is an institution focused on interrogating policy formulation in order to contribute to policy advisory. The bulletin goes beyond the often discussed what needs to be done question. And we focus on the too often forgotten, how can this be done effectively? So what do we have that is unique that other think tanks do not have for us to answer this too often forgotten question? How can this be done effectively? We conduct policy inquiry, dialogue, and analytical insights of a complex, multifaceted global landscape. This is on political, socio-economic, and security issues globally, regionally, and specifically, we give a local context of these issues. And this concerns specific issues. These are, among others, international relations, trade, technology, finance, energy, and geostrategy. GROSEPS boasts of experts on various regions of the world and who contribute to the achievement of the vision by conducting evidence-based policy research and provide practical solutions to the most pressing issues in developing countries like ours and beyond. And how do we do that? We have a team of resident fellows. These are fresh scholars from the university who bring bright minds, academia, and we merge these researchers with people who have years of practice. Ambassador Maina and his cadre of non-resident team. These are people who have practiced. So we merge practice and theory. We look and identify and speak to the gap that comes from theory and practice. And that makes us unique in the field of policy inquiry and affecting the formulation as well as the implementation. Ladies and gentlemen, in the recent past, great changes have taken place in the world. To this end, GROSEPS has laid focus on key geostrategic policy issues, key among them the global health situation, the COVID-19. We've written research articles, we've done and inquired on policy directions at the local context, at the region, and even in the world. We've also looked at the global threats and forecasting, specifically in the security and defense pillars. We've looked at transnational threats, prominently the terror threat and the nexus that it has with trans-organized crime, and of course, governance, human rights, and technology. And of course, all the ramifications that technology comes with. To this end, the Center would like to acknowledge the able leadership of our executive management team, led by the GROSEPS Director, Brigadier Retired Charles Kang'ethe. Sir, I salute you. Indeed, the support of our partners, CAM stakeholders in policy issues, key among them, the Horn Institute and academicians drawn from diverse backgrounds that are of interest to GROSEPS. I can see representation here, Professor Iraki, among others who are present here today. And in addition, we cannot forget to acknowledge the people who have been instrumental in getting us here. The researchers, the both resident and the non-resident fellows. These are the fellows who burn the midnight oil in the field of inquiry. Our rallying call as board members is for all of us to join hands and work together for a more prosperous and robust future of the center. And finally, to all our distinguished guests present here today, our influential bulletin and daily briefs that we write are consumed by you. Without you consuming our products, we would be out of business. And apart from reading our current and previous bulletins, if you want more information on the center, as Ambassador Maina has pointed out, you can check out on the GROSEPS website for the latest research articles. Thank you all for coming, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Many thanks.
Invite the director.
Okay. At this juncture, I'm going to invite GROSEPS Executive Director, Brigadier Retired Charles Kang'ethe, to make his remarks. Welcome, sir.
Our chief guest today, Madam Nancy Karigidu, the Principal Secretary, State Department of Shipping and Maritime Affairs, Ambassador Solomon Maina, who is representing our non-resident fellows, Madam Regina, who is representing Gloucester Board, Dr. Kennedy Assemble, who is the Associate Director of the Center, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. Good afternoon. Yeah, first and foremost, let me take this early opportunity to once again welcome you all to the Nairobi Serena Hotel for this very important event to launch the second issue of Influential Bulletin. To our chief guest, Madam P.S., I want to appreciate you in a very special way for having taken time out of your busy schedule to come and grace this event. I have now confirmed what you had mentioned earlier during our engagement, that you want to be part and parcel of the Global Center for Policy and Strategies and work together and grow with the center. Asante sana, madam. Your distinguished guest, this occasion marks yet another important milestone as we pursue our vision of being the epitome of excellence in action research, policy influence, and strategy formulation. Since our inaugural launch and the release of the maiden Influential Bulletin on the 19th of February this year, the center has embarked on fulfilling the promise that we made to judiciously share actionable policies strategies. We have since received constructive feedback on the inaugural bulletin. This has provided us the platform to produce targeted policy materials, like the GLOSEP daily information brief that are released every day, and they also appear on our website. And we also have other continuous publications, like the second edition of our Influential Bulletin that we are just about to launch. These are very clear indicators that we are now ongoing phase of producing analytical products that are able to influence policy formulation. Distinguished guests, the nation faces numerous emerging issues such as COVID-19 pandemic, nationalism, in the distribution of COVID vaccine, and even transitional criminals who are taking advantage of the situation of the pandemic. The burden of corruption continues also to weigh down on our response to the pandemic. The cost of living, particularly high energy costs, have created inflation and slowed economic growth. In the age of ICT, fake news and disinformation is at all-time high, which is an increasing threat to our national security. In regard to all these issues, as a proactive think tank, for prevailing trends, including emerging geopolitical realignments and power play by states in the Horn of Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, in our April-May issue, we have not only recognized the aforementioned challenges, but we are also starting national global conversation on how to forge a better future. Based on a 5-pillar of research, the center is continuing to decode the challenges and make influential policy recommendations. On strategic interests and transnational crimes, we have looked at the intensity of organized crimes and COVID-19 vaccine management. The governance pillar examines lifestyle audit as anti-corruption strategy. The defense and security pillar assesses social media and political disinformation, especially during the coming referendum and the electioneering period next year. On development, we have looked into how Kenya energy policies are creating an affordable energy cost, while the diplomacy and foreign policy pillar evaluates how Ethiopia is using her strategic water endowment to win over allies while weakening existing hegemonies and realign regional power in her favor. This bulletin, therefore, is an intriguing read that captures the great output and potential of the Global Center for Policy and Strategy. Having said that, before I conclude my remarks, I want to emphasize to our partners that our continued cooperation will bring forth enriched relationship leading to significant research nationally, globally, and regionally. This navigating association will connect both the researchers who are here and the policymakers by producing quality research products that will influence policy formulation. And as your host today, I want to announce that it is our wish that we keep on expanding the research partnership to the experts of various fields who are here with us today to witness this launch, so as to keep on extending our research horizon. And lastly, before I invite the chief guest, I want personally to thank each one of you for having time to come and attend this event. I also wish all of you a happy Eid Mubarak. It is now my great pleasure and honor to invite to the podium our chief guest, Madam Nancy Karigidu, the Principal Secretary, the State Department of Shipping and Maritime Affairs, to give her keynote speech to grace this occasion. Madam, please.
Executive Director for GLOSEPS, Brigadier Retired Kang'ethe, Ambassador Minor, Non-Resident Fellow, and representative of the non-resident faculty, Madam Regina Moyuro, representing board membership, all protocols observed, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as well as the administration of GLOSEPS. Good afternoon, or is it good evening already? Let me start by saying how honored I am for having been invited to officiate at this very important event that marks the official launch of the second edition of the Influential Bulletin, a very timely and important initiative. It is also significant that we are having this event when the world at large and also our country are in the throes of a severe and unprecedented pandemic, which keeps on ebbing and waning, and therefore there is a need to contextualize today's conversations and the future researches if we are going to remain relevant. So if I venture into suggestions of topics that we could look at, you will forgive me. Let me also say that the world today needs more than ever a very well-informed citizenry, because they are better placed to understand, address, and engage with the predicaments facing them, and especially those ones that have been brought by globalization. If there is one important lesson we shall take away from the COVID-19 crisis, it is the need to make sure that decision-making is premised on knowledge and information, because there is no room for mistakes, not with the reality of emerging unique challenges confronting us, and also at the same time, as we are facing the crisis, having to look for solutions, as well as to address the negative economic impacts that are unleashed. So, ladies and gentlemen, GLOSEPS as a think tank has been actively engaged in churning out information that impacts on national, regional, and global governance in collaboration, of course, with individuals and development partners. And today I'm privileged to witness the publication of the bulletin of their immediate efforts, which bulletin is at the core of unraveling the challenges facing our globe, particularly at this time. As people were introducing themselves, I felt like I was in the wrong place because everybody is a doctor. And like I've told Madam Regina, I will work towards that so that the next time maybe I'll also take pride in that title. So we know the quality we are getting. So the dramatic spread of COVID-19 has disrupted lives, livelihood, communities, and businesses worldwide. But the pandemic has also ushered in a paradigm shift where at personal level, individual level, national and organizational levels, we all have to rethink new strategies in order to formulate the solutions needed to transform the lives of the people we serve. And this presents a unique opportunity for entities like yourselves at the Global Center for Policy and Strategy to formulate and simulate solutions to the challenges facing us today, if we are going to remain relevant to humanity. The unprecedented challenges we are facing today, like economic segregation, unequal access to vaccines, climate change and the accompanying disasters, political turmoil, governance, including, of course, what the director has said, being misallocation of resources, just to name a few, need a new way of approach. Closer home, in the context of globalization, there is an immediate need to rebuild strained relations across our region and the African continent as a whole, in order to create strong and resilient economies that match and reflect new and emerging economic opportunities. Indeed, future-proofing the economy to recover from present pandemics should be one of the occupations that occupy our minds in the not-so-distant future. And in this regard, I want to say that the AFTCA presents a unique opportunity for us, and we need to seize the moment. As you are aware, the African Free Trade Area is the largest trading bloc in the world that brings together 54 African nations. It's larger than the European Union in terms of geographical expansion, as well as membership of the number of states. It has all the ingredients that are needed to bring forth a united, prosperous, and peaceful Africa. And as a think tank, GLOSEPS and related entities may have your work cut out for you in terms of creating the essential narratives and bringing forth the kind of supporting information that will be required to feed into and creating the roadmap, as well as shaping the aspirations of the continent. Of course, in collaboration with relevant partners and stakeholders, as well as like-minded think tanks. We take note that, sadly, the AFCTA is coming in at a time when the bloc's national economies have taken a beating due to the pandemic. From supply chains and operations to technology optimizations, there is nothing that has not been severely affected by the present crisis. A key focus, therefore, must be to forge multidisciplinary solutions, cutting across the provision of public health, employment, renewable and non-renewable resources, fair trade, climate change mitigation, health diplomacy, all of which highlights the interrelated areas that policymakers and relevant stakeholders must focus on in order to bring innovation into the formulation as well as implementation of critical programs that will address those areas. The sum of many individual actions, however, may not add up to the sufficient response, and coordinated action by governments, businesses, combined with global multi-stakeholder cooperation at exceptional scale and speed is the only way that we will potentially mitigate the risks and impact that this crisis has woven. All stakeholders, therefore, must urgently come together in order to minimize the impact and limit its potential for further social, economic disruptions. And this includes especially young people. As you are aware, there are more young people in the world than ever before. In Kenya, we call it the youth bulge. And they are very critical members of the global society and key to driving ideas, innovations, and movements. So we must embrace them and bring them on board. Across the globe, and even more closer home, the pandemic has had a particularly severe impact on youth in their employment, owing to disruptions to education, job layoffs, with the attendant income losses, as well as increased barriers to job market entry. Indeed, a recent ILO survey on youth unemployment informs us that youth around the world have been severely and disproportionately affected by the COVID-19 crisis. And this is especially so for young women. We are told that more than 1 in 6 young people are out of work as a result of the pandemic, that 178 million youth are employed in sectors that have been hit very hard by the pandemic and are facing layoffs, and 131 million of these young people are informally employed. Young people face uncertain job market and employment on income loss, yet are a critical cog of our economic recovery as nation states. And for the people who are still pursuing, the young people still pursuing education, the pandemic is likely to result in unprecedented new inequalities upon graduation. If you recall, on Monday this week, our Cabinet Secretary for Education released the KCSE results, showing that 747,161 students did their examination last year. And of those numbers, 143,140 of them attained grade C, meaning therefore they are qualified for university entry. What happens to the rest? These are some of the questions we need to start asking ourselves. So youth are also on the front line of other major economic transformations across the global economy, including digitalization, automation. And as you know, COVID also exposed the shortcomings of the digital divide. Beyond COVID-19 pandemic, we are also facing one of the greatest workforce challenges of the 21st century. And therefore, maybe it's time, not maybe, it must be time to rethink and touch the reset button. Because in the foregoing context, there is an urgent and comprehensive need to come up with a response to tackle youth unemployment as a crucial aspect of the country's economic recovery strategies. It may be once in a generation opportunity to reshape the foundations of our economy, prepare youth to thrive in the future of work, generate new widespread prosperity, and lay the groundwork for a safer, cleaner, greener, and more equitable world. Investing in and reskilling people can now help us get them back to work while building a more just, inclusive, and resilient economy. So investing in young people will help us tackle skills shortages and provide us with a future-proofed way to recover from the pandemic, We need to address the skills gap for young workers in the global economy. And when I say this, maritime sector comes to mind. I would be failing in my duty if I don't mention that. We need to expedite investment in youth training and upskilling as a crucial part of recovery from the pandemic. And most important, invest in a future-proofed and essential skills development for youth entering the workforce and also people whose work is in transition. But most important, as part of your research, this must include soft skills, that academic skills are not enough. And we see in the global context that we need youth who think differently. I know that because in the field I work in, I produce workers who travel beyond the borders, and therefore they need to be able to address themselves and fit into the global mindset. And most important, we need to invest in sector-specific skills and technical training to address the most pressing problems facing our society. And when I reach here, I must say that harnessing the blue economy and the attendant governance regulatory processes remain very critical for job creation, safety and security, as well as our wider national interest considerations and beyond. So, ladies and gentlemen, as the COVID-19 pandemic will have lasting repercussions on the youth, the actions I've just mentioned at the state or national level can help bring forward inclusive youth voices. Young people are crucial to economic recovery efforts, and pushing our national institutions to provide new opportunities for those who have been squeezed out of the job market and addressing systematic long-term challenges is paramount to the great reset I've just mentioned. And I'm going to pose some questions to GLOSEPs. For example, how are different countries and regions affected? And what strategies are available to best mitigate the crisis? How are we as a country particularly going to position ourselves to mitigate this crisis and future-proof our economy? Most important, does the crisis provide us with an opportunity to develop an economy into a future-proof direction, considering particularly the imminent climate crisis that has taken a backseat to the COVID crisis? And GLOSEPs might just want to start asking some of these hard questions and getting more information feeding into policy development. For example, should we bring more investment into the public health sector in order to make sure that we have higher capacity levels, which just might be in itself a way to restart the economy again? And moving to the solutions to the current crisis, how would it sit if we had greater collaboration between even more stakeholders, both in the public and private sectors? Drawing from the varied and analytical products that we have observed as generated by entities like GLOSEPs, I have no doubt that both national and continental challenges will be effectively addressed with efficient logistical and systemized frameworks so that we ensure people-centered agenda are adopted by public and private sectors. I'm also sure that if we all do that, we shall be able to address the systematic problems ailing our structural economy, giving rise to inequalities, massive health disruptions, and orchestrated crimes, all of which can then be effectively addressed. And drawing from the varied analytical products generated by homegrown organizations like GLOSEPs, I am personally convinced that national and global problems will require efficient logistical and systematized frameworks in order to ensure that people-centered agendas are adopted by governments, security organs, as well as the private sector. I also believe that it is only through this that ailing economies, both in the region and beyond, as well as the massive health disruptions and orchestrated crimes, can be addressed. Now, allow me finally, as I draw to a conclusion, to pose this question. In the advent of our constitutional dispensation as a country, what are the domestic elements and tenets that homegrown entities can align to and adopt in the aforestated issues? And I wish to propose the following as pillars for sustaining home-based entities like GLOSEPs. Number one, building the capacity for such entities so that they establish themselves as critically significant. And this will require a multidisciplinary approach when formulating effective strategies designed to assist with challenging issues. Secondly, the home-based entities will require specialization, and I'm glad the director mentioned it, in the development-centered agenda aligned to the local services and products. And thirdly, indigenous think tanks like GLOSEPs need to be supported so that they may tap into regional and global prospects. An elaborate strategy should therefore be made to attract local and global funding through facilitation of networks, strong networks, effective communication, and human resource development. It is my firm belief that homegrown entities like GLOSEPs, with a firm commitment to decipher global challenges, can offer an accelerative path into the future amidst uncertainties brought about by globalization. Let me end by saying that I look forward to engaging with the Center as it works forth to become the game changer in the field of research and policy formulation with a diverse audience to ensure that our country delivers on our national goals and also harnesses on the current potential that we have as a country and also in the field of globalization. So ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, I want to salute you all for taking time to be part of this great event when we launch this very important document. And to the GLOSEPs team, let me reiterate that I'm very proud to be associated with you as I look forward to continued collaboration and cooperation as we move forward. Finally, let me thank you all very much, and may God bless you. And I also take the opportunity to wish you a very happy Eid tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Our chief guest, Principal Secretary Nancy Keregetu, thank you very much for your very insightful address. I believe the research team was taking notes, especially around the issue areas and also the action points. I'd now like to invite Dr. Kennedy Asembo, the Associate Director at GLOSEPs, to come to the podium to offer a synopsis of the Influential Bulletin and thereafter usher us to the launch event. Dr. Asembo, you're welcome to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mwangi. To our chief guests, allow me to, first of all, congratulate you for the wonderful address you've given us. I would like now to give you a synopsis of what's contained in the second issue of the Influential Bulletin that we are launching today. This publication contains research discussions themed on amplifying domestic conversations on Kenya's prosperity while keeping watch on regional discourses. The 5 research papers advance scholarly and policy debates focusing on the COVID-19 pandemic, social media adaptations, escalating cost of energy in Kenya, anti-corruption legislation, and Ethiopia's hegemonic ambitions in the Horn of Africa. Each paper analyzes the implications of the issues on Kenya's future. They contain practical recommendations for various publics, including governments, regional organizations, and intergovernmental bodies. The first paper by Ida Gadhoni, yes, Ida, presents a case for safeguarding COVID-19 vaccine from organized crime adaptations in Kenya. The discussion emphasizes that the pandemic has drastically slowed down activities of organized criminal groups worldwide and substantially reduced their incomes, thereby provoking adaptations and exploitation of new frontiers, among them COVID-19 vaccine and its environment. It recommends strict management of the COVID-19 vaccine by government health agencies with a strict criteria for involvement of the private sector. The second paper by Dr. John Mwangi, yes, Doc, argues that Facebook's and Twitter's move to block political disinformation on their platforms is bound to render the social media environment to adaptation mechanisms. The paper concludes that the use of alternative social media applications in the run-up to Kenya's 2022 general elections has the potential to negatively impact the country's national security, hence the need for policymakers to develop new strategies to counter disinformation. The third paper by Stephen Duvi, yes, thank you, Stephen, argues that lukewarm implementation of the lifestyle audit law downgrades the ongoing anti-corruption efforts and remains a challenge in taming the runaway corruption in Kenya. It concludes that the existing situation offers a graft holiday for corrupt officials, thus the need to actively engage the lifestyle audit law in identifying, exposing, and rooting out corrupt public officers. The fourth paper by Michael Award, yeah, thank you, Mike, discusses contextual issues and regulatory weaknesses within the context of optimizing Kenya's energy resources. It argues that legal loopholes and policy gaps in Kenya's energy sector present a lucrative ground for exploitation by cartels. It concludes that development and implementation of progressive, competitive, and transparent energy sector policies remain the most viable avenue for delivery of affordable and reliable energy. Our fifth and last paper by our very Janet Kiguru, thank you, Janet, argues that Ethiopia is using her strategic water endowment to build alliances, dominate neighbors, and subdue regional powers. The paper projects that the next war in the Horn of Africa is likely to be based on water resources. It subsequently presents a case for the need for African states to develop frameworks for sharing transboundary water resources. Let's clap for the team once again. Thank you. As I request our chief guest to come to our stand to unveil the Influential Bulletin, I'd like Mike and Ida to just prepare for the launch. Yeah, thank you, Mike and Ida. Our chief guest, I will request you to move to our stand together with our director. I'll request you to hold the white curtain and the director holds the green one, and thereafter pull it back to unveil the second issue. Wow.
Thank you, Dr. Eddie Assemble, and of course our chief guest and executive director for presiding over the launch event. We now proceed to the gift presentation, and I would now like to invite our chief guest, accompanied by the executive director, to this side for the gift presentation. Madam Judy will facilitate that process quickly.
Our chief guest in African tradition, normal for somebody to visit you and walk out empty-handed. It is in this regard that we have a small memento for you so that you can keep on remembering gossip as we walk together.
Thank you, sir. You may resume your seats. Just to assure you that we have a gift for everybody. So as we come to the end, we will issue a gift for everybody. I'd like to recognize very, very quickly Dr. Elijah Munyi from the United States International University. Karibu sana. I'd now like to invite our board member, Madam Regina Muyuro, for the vote of thanks. You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. John. Our most valued invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, I deem it a great honor to propose hearty vote of thanks to all who have helped us in making the launch of the second issue of the Influential Bulletin on domestic and regional conversations shaping Kenya's national interests. We've had such a resounding success this afternoon. Allow me first to propose a hearty vote of thanks to our most distinguished chief guest and keynote speaker of the day, Madam Nancy Karigithu, PS, State Department for Shipping and Maritime. We are particularly grateful for making time out of your busy schedule to attend to this occasion. We remain obligated by your very interesting and thought-provoking address. The MC, Dr. John, who is dabbling in his role, has indicated that I hope the researchers were taking the notes. I can assure you all the very hard questions that our chief guest has pointed out, I have captured them here. So, Madam, we want to assure you that the inquiry, the direction, the gaps that you've pointed out, some of them, we've looked at them, and those that we've not, particularly on the issue of the young voices. And we boast of having young researchers, young brains coming from the very distinguished universities with us. So that is an area that we are going to focus in the future. So thank you very much, Madam, for that. Our profound gratitude also goes to a non-resident fellow, Ambassador Solomon Maina, who is with us here, and of course to the rest of the non-resident fellows who are joining us through the online platform. We thank you very much. To our beloved CROSEP's Executive Director, Brigadier Retired Charles Kang'ethe, we are immensely grateful to your able leadership. Your leadership has taken the center to great heights of success. We thank you. Respected board members, represented here by myself, Dr. Odoro, who is away on another assignment, we thank you for the unflinching support in our efforts of public policy inquiry and the discourse. And in this case, we are also very heavily indebted to our donors, our development partners, for providing the resources that has seen the center achieve its vision as well as its mission. We recognize as well the institutions and agencies that have identified with us, specifically government representatives from the ministries who are with us today. Allow me briefly to just mention some of them. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of ICT, Innovation and Youth Affairs, Ministry of Energy and Petroleum, and also we are honored to have representation from the National Police Service and Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Indeed, your support today and in the past during our discussions, during our conferences, has made the production of the articles that we do have, the inquiry, successful as we interrogate the policy formulation and implementation. We cannot fail to appreciate the presence of honorable professors represented here at this very unique event. I can see Professor Iraki, I can see Professor Raija Muni. You remain our friends and our partners. You have had discussions with us, you've interrogated our spaces, you've brought out the gaps that we need to focus on. So we are so indebted to have you and to work with you now and in the future. And I wish to salute the distinguished CROSEP's research team, both the residents and the non-residents, the CROSEP's administrative team, the editors, and of course, our very young mind, the designer. Your work has been recognized. The Influential Bulletin is very beautiful, and I believe this is something that everyone can attest to it. Without this team of the CROSEPs, we can never be. And of course, we have other partners with us. I wish to recognize the presence of Alex Kabia, our evening scholar. We thank you for the discourses and the conversations that we have that have shaped the issues that we produce. Our online followers, we know because of the COVID situation, would have had a large crowd, but the situation does not allow that. So we recognize you, and we know that you've been following us and speaking to us and giving feedback. Allow me to say that for an event of this magnitude, we might have inadvertently missed out some names who could be present here. It is not intended to diminish or overlook your useful contributions, which we appreciate immensely. So feel appreciated, even though we've not mentioned your names. And we also appreciate the management and staff of Nairobi Serena Hotel for providing an effective and efficient service, the kind of ambience that we are enjoying here. In conclusion, I express our sincere thanks to the gentlemen of the press, Mr. Gitoga and your team, together with your program coordinator, Dr. John. Thank you. we consume your brains, and we can see you have other skills that we can utilize and continue to utilize. So your immense support has led to the success of this lounge. And as I conclude, I wish to pass our kind regards during this festive season to our Muslim brothers and sisters. Happy holidays tomorrow. Thank you very much for coming. We appreciate all of you. Many thanks.
Thank you, Madam Regina Muyuro, for the vote of thanks. Our chief guest, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the formal event. We'll now proceed to the photo session in the following order. And thereafter, after the photo session, we'll proceed to the reception area, which is just outside of the registration center. And thereafter, we will enjoy the drinks and the coffee and the snacks that are available there. I would like to thank you all for your attention and for your presence this afternoon. In terms of the order of the photo session, I would like to request that our chief guest and the executive director and Ambassador Solomon Maina walk to the fountain area. You'll be guided. That will be the first photo session. You will remain there for the next photo. We'll take 4 photos. The second photo will include the chief guest, the executive team at GLOSEPS, the board. The ambassador will also be on that photo, the second photo. And then the third photo will have the chief guest, the executive leadership, the non-resident fellows. I think we anticipated a number of them would come, and the GLOSEP staff. And then the fourth one will be all participants who grace this event. So I'd now like to request that we all stand as we usher in our chief guest and the entourage to the fountain area. Grace will direct the executive team to that side. Please let me be upstanding as our guests leave. And then there will be a little interruption here with the
Thank you.